in the entire history of human conflict. A moment when one side did more to reduce collateral damage than Israeli forces are doing today in Gaza. I thought I would, I'm going to have to escape from this and then come back to it. I hope this is going to work. I thought I would read to you from a story in yesterday's, this is an English translation of a story in one of yesterday's Israeli newspapers. The name of the newspaper is Arutz Sheva. Let's see if I can do this and then come back. So, here we go. Emergency brain surgery at Israeli hospital saves Gaza toddler. A month and a half ago, 2-year-old Wala Omar arrived at Rambam Health Center. That's in Haifa. That's way far from Gaza. That's in the northern part of Israel. Listless, apathetic, and completely paralyzed. Oh shoot, I don't have the whole thing here. Wala had been diagnosed in the Gaza hospital as having a large tumor that was pressing on her brain. The growth had to be removed, but her parents were hesitant to have the local hospital remove it. I'm missing the tip of the line, so I'm not going to fill it in. On the advice of her oncologist, Wala's parents opted for what the doctor termed the first hospital on his list, Rambam. According to the child's father, he told the Gaza doctor told the father, once your daughter will be in Rambam, everything will be fine and your family can rest assured. Having decided that the daughter must get into Israel, Wala's parents obtained a letter of request from their local hospital, sent it to Haifa. Without hesitation, Dr. Miriam Ben Arush, who I guess is the administrative director of the Rambam hospital, said, please transfer Wala to Rambam at once. Upon her arrival, she had an MRI scan, showed that the tumor was now the size of an orange. She reached the neurosurgery unit, and Dr. Joseph Gilbert operated immediately, removing the entire growth. Shortly after surgery, she went home to Gaza for a week, then she returned to Rambam for 30 radiation sessions, etc., etc. She's recovering amazingly. Let me just push down. This is not an earth-shattering event. The Children's Hospital in Rambam provides treatment in oncology, nephrology, orthopedics, cardiology, and neurosurgery to 700 children from throughout the world. Rambam has treated 200 adults and children from Gaza alone this year, since January of 2011. Twice the number treated during the same period last year. Of those, 25 have been pediatric oncology patients. Let's see if I can do this now. I'm just trying to make the point that the occupation of Gaza, the blockade of Gaza, no longer occupation, the occupation was ceased in 2005, but the blockade of Gaza is very far from the gross and constant violation of human rights that is sometimes claimed to be the case. Let me now talk briefly about Judea, Samaria, and the protective wall. I've talked about it, of course, already. You've got there a map of central Israel. That map really is incorporates most likely, let's say, 80% of the population of Israel. Although there's a bit of Israel to the north of the map and a substantial amount of Israel, the desert, the Negev desert to the south of the map. But the part that you see here on the map is the overwhelming majority of the population of Israel, and the main red line that you see there is the dividing the truce line between the 1949 truce line, wherein Judea and Samaria to the east of the line was occupied by Jordan until 1967, as we know. You'll see that on occasion, and I wish I had one of these laser pointers. In fact, it's my fault I should have asked one. I'm sure you all have one, but you may be able to see that there are very minor adjustments. The security wall that's being built by Israel, in most cases, is exactly on that line, but in some cases is not. As I was indicating, there's about 7% of that territory that is now on the, if I could put it this way, the Israeli side of the protected barrier. There are also a few places, oops, sorry, how did that happen? Sure if I can get back. Yeah, there are a few places where the opposite happens, where there's a part that is not in Judea and Samaria, that is inhabited entirely by an Arabic population, that is contiguous to the line, that is put by where the Israelis built the security wall on their own inside of territory that's not Judea Samaria, so that the Arabic population would be joined with Judea and Samaria. Ultimately, as I indicated, 60,000 Jews would be forced into that 7% of the area that Israel plans to keep. All Jews would then be located inside the protective walls, making the rest of the area virtually forlorn of Jews. About 193 Jews and 10,000 Arabs live in that 7% of Judea and Samaria that lies between the future border and the 1949 ceasefire line. It's interesting to read this little quip from Al-Manar TV, November 11, 2006. Al-Manar was the same network that had started the anti-Semitic rumor that American Jews had all been warned of the attacks on 9/11. Al-Manar TV broadcast an interview with the then head of Islamic Jihad, Abdullah Ramadan Shalah. And Mr. Shalah was asked when massive suicide attacks would begin again because they had stopped. Suicide attacks coming from Judea, Samaria into Israel, into Israeli cities. Shalah responded that starting them up again was the main goal of his, but that there were problems. For example, there is this separation wall. Without it, things would be vastly different. Shalah is entirely correct. If you look at just even immediately after the building of the separation walls, just the victims of suicide attacks before and after the security fence, it's really quite remarkable. So in 2003, which is when they started building areas with the fence, 46 Israelis were killed in suicide and 221 wounded in suicide attacks. Areas without the fence, 89 killed and 411 wounded. 1 year later, looking at the next half year, January to June 2004, 0 killed. The fence is now largely built. 0 killed, and because now the areas without the fence can have greater Israeli security because the troops can be focused on the fewer areas where there is no fence, far fewer people killed even in those areas. Let me talk to you briefly about WikiLeaks as I'm approaching the end of my remarks. And the way in which WikiLeaks and some branch of WikiLeaks called PaliLeaks have, I think, exposed some popular myths as concerns current events. One first issue is who is the real enemy of Arab states. It was no secret that Arab leaders feared Iran's growing power and made not the slightest connection between Iran and, say, the Israeli-Palestinian border issue. Anybody who met with an Arab official from Riyadh to Rabat heard the same dread about the looming prospect of a nuclear-armed Shiite theocracy in Tehran. In today's world, facts don't necessarily have a claim on fiction, and until WikiLeaks, fiction, I think, became so incontrovertible that there was no easy way around them. But WikiLeaks did arrive, and although I certainly do not condone or them in any way, it is interesting to see what they reveal. The cables revealed that from Saudi Arabia to Bahrain, from the United Arab Emirates to Egypt, Arab leaders were imploring the USA to stiffen its spine and confront Iran. Linkage to the Palestinian border question, not even close, no mention whatsoever. To the contrary, quite a few Arab countries looked to Israel, with or without a peace agreement with Israel, as a stealth ally in the face-off with Iran. A second myth was about settlement building in eastern Jerusalem. According to that myth, the peace process was going to wither on the vine because Israel had indicated its intention to allow construction of apartment buildings in which Jews could live in eastern Jerusalem. Israel was criticized, pilloried, and pummeled for its actions, accused of being not only an obstacle to peace, but the obstacle to peace. The reality on the ground didn't seem to matter. The world was led to believe that the very future of the Middle East hinged on whether these apartment buildings could be built. Then came PaliLeaks, and the myth was blown out of the water. The documents showed that there was tacit agreement on certain land swaps, including, yes, even Jewish areas in eastern Jerusalem. The papers showed that the gap between the two sides